11 police officers found involved in drug abuse. The bill related to the crime of stalking is expected to be tabled in the Dewan Rakyat this year. Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Parliament and Law, Datuk Mas Ermiati Samsudin, said the anti-stalking bill is in the final process of being refined at the Attorney General's chambers.
Datuk Haji Mas Ermiati. Anti-stalking law buat masa ni statusnya masih lagi berada di peringkat perincian terakhir di peringkat AGC, dan insyaAllah hasrat saranan daripada Yang Berhormat Menteri akan saya buat taklimat bersama dengan ahli-ahli Parlimen, YB Senator dan juga NGO pada minggu depan untuk kita berikan pemakluman dan juga statistik ini, juga membuat engagement dengan semua pemegang taruh dan juga mereka yang terlibat.
She said the bill is expected to protect victims, especially women, from harassment in an offline or online environment. With the passing of this bill, Datuk Mas Ermiati said many victims will dare to come forward, adding that it will give a sense of security and hope to the victims.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala.
The Keluarga Malaysia sales program will be implemented in 639 state constituencies nationwide weekly from mid-August. Special Task Force on Jihad Against Inflation Chairman Tan Sri Anwar Musa said the program would give access to the people to obtain cheaper goods on weekly basis for 18 weeks until the end of this year.
Kalau dulu di satu kawasan parlimen hanya 2 kali sahaja dalam masa sebulan, tapi kali ini setiap minggu di setiap kawasan Dewan Undangan Negeri, yang merupakan pertambahan lebih daripada 500% dari segi intensitinya.
Explaining further, Tan Sri Anwar said 5 ministries involved have started taking action to implement the cheap sale program according to the guidelines and would be monitored by KPD and HEP. Apart from KPD and HEP, the 4 ministries cooperating in the implementation of the program are the Agriculture and Food Industries Ministry, Entrepreneur Development and Cooperatives Ministry, Rural Development Ministry and Federal Territories Ministry. Meanwhile, Tan Sri Anwar said the Cooperative Commission has put up a proposal on the involvement of the cooperative movement to sell essential goods, including those under the price control scheme, such as chicken, sugar, cooking oil, flour and rice, at prices lower than the market rate. He said the mechanism would involve thousands of cooperative shops nationwide, which have the capability and capacity to distribute essential products.
Jawatan kuasa ini menyokong untuk membuka ruang kepada penyertaan dan penglibatan gerakan koperasi bagi terlibat dalam pengedaran beberapa barangan tertentu, barang keperluan tertentu, dengan janji Suruhanjaya mereka akan membantu untuk membolehkan barang itu dijual beberapa peratus lebih murah daripada harga yang ada sekarang. Jadi ini inisiatif kedua yang besarlah selepas daripada gerakan jualan Keluarga Malaysia. Itu satu pendekatan. Sekarang ini kita akan susuli pula gerakan koperasi, keterlibatan gerakan koperasi untuk sama-sama berusaha membolehkan rakyat mendapat barangan yang lebih murah.
In another development, Tan Sri Anwar said communication with the people on a certain issue should provide explanation and understanding to avoid misunderstanding, citing the announcement on the overnight policy rate as an example. Tan Sri Anwar added such announcements have been made in the past from time to time, but it did not attract the attention of the people in general. Therefore, he said the task force would also be stepping efforts in the aspect of communication and delivering information to the people. Apart from that, the Special Task Force would also be fed with the latest information by the Statistics Department on the current inflation situation. The Department of Orang Asli Development, JAKOA, is expected to begin a study on amendments to the existing Aboriginal Peoples Act 1954, Act 134 this year to provide better protection for the community. Rural Development Minister Dato' Sri Madzir Khalid said the study, which was expected to be completed in 2025, needed to be done to ensure there were appropriate sections in the Act to address current issues. He said the Act had never been amended since its inception except for a revision in 1974, which only involved a review of the change of name of JAKOA Commissioner to Director General, while other matters were not touched upon. Dato' Sri Madzir said apart from the study of the Act, the Ministry of Rural Development is also ready to consider increasing the allowance rate for Orang Asli leaders from the current RM900 to RM1,500.
Bagi dia sikit semangat. Jadi ini KP dengan pengarah-pengarah lah di peringkat negeri. Mereka train ketua-ketua ni supaya dia lebih dinamik lah untuk jaga masyarakat dia.
The minister added that the allowance increment follows a request by the chief from Kampung Orang Asli Chang in Bido, Perak, Al Shahin Derau, for the government to increase the allowance in line with the current needs. On the cost-saving measures ordered by the government, Dato' Sri Madzir said it was being scrutinized by the top management of KPLB and the agencies under it to get a clearer picture of the matter. The advertisement offer for the sale of ex-Royal Malaysia Police Association or PBPM membership and emblem, which has gone viral on social media, is fake. Royal Malaysia Police Secretary Dato' Nursiah Muhammad Saaduddin said the police are currently carrying out investigations on the individual responsible for disseminating the advertisement. In a statement, Dato' Nursiah said PDRM detected an advertisement on social media promoting the sale of PBPM membership and honorary member emblems. According to the post, members displaying the emblem would be given privileges such as police escort service with a fee of RM300 for a 10-kilometre distance. It was also mentioned that vehicle owners are allowed to tint their windscreen and windows and no action will be taken by the authorities if found driving while intoxicated. Dato' Nursiah said such privileges do not exist, nor such thing is being offered to anyone as claimed. As such, PDRM advises the public not to be influenced and to ignore the offer and refer to PDRM's official media channels to avoid becoming victims of fraud. Several policemen attached with the Perak contingent were found to be involved in drug abuse and some were repeat offenders. Perak Police Chief Dato' Mir Farid Al-Atrash Wahid said the matter was detected when they failed a random urine test which was carried out on Wednesday.
Siapa saja yang terlibat dengan kegiatan penyalahgunaan dadah ni, tak kira lah WMA pegawai atau anggota, kita akan mengambil tindakan tegas ke atas mereka. So mereka ni telah ditahan. Semalam kita buat ujian dan dapati ada di antara mereka gagal. Tapi ini baru ujian awal lah. Dan kalau lepas kita hantar air kencing untuk ujian patologi dan jika mereka disahkan masih lagi positif dengan dadah-dadah tertentu, kita akan cadang untuk dituduh di mahkamah.
Elaborating further, Dato' Mir Farid Al-Atrash said those detained were being investigated under the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952 and would face a disciplinary action under the Public Officers Regulations Act, Conduct and Discipline 1993. Coming up on the foreign front, Italian Parliament dissolved, forcing the end of Mario Draghi premiership. Italy's President Sergio Mattarella on Thursday dissolved Parliament and called for an early elections on 25th September, marking the end of the government led by Premier Mario Draghi. Draghi submitted his resignation on Thursday morning following the collapse of his broad coalition after three key parties boycotted a crucial confidence vote on his leadership. Draghi's turbulent exit plunged Italy into a new phase of political uncertainty, raising worries among European partners and international investors. In a short speech after meeting the speakers of the lower house and Senate, Mattarella said dissolving parliament was a choice of last resort, but became inevitable in light of the fractious political situation. The president has asked Draghi to remain in office until a new government is formed to allow parliament to meet important deadlines. Mattarella stressed that Italy is facing a series of tough choices and urgent commitments that require Parliament's swift action following high inflation, spiking energy and food prices, and the effects of the Russia-Ukraine war. Although Draghi won a confidence vote on Wednesday, it was without the backing of key parties in his broad coalition. During a heated debate in the Senate, it became clear that the right-wing League and Silvio Berlusconi's Forza Italia were not keen to remain in government with the five-star movement that triggered the crisis. All three parties refused to take part in the vote, sealing the fate of the ruling coalition. Sri Lankan security forces demolished the main anti-government protest camp in the capital early Friday and evicted activists hours before the new president was due to name a cabinet. Now, the raid came a day after veteran politician Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as the crisis-hit country's new leader, replacing Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who fled and resigned after protesters overran his palace. Troops and police special task force commandos armed with batons and automatic assault rifles swooped in on protesters, blocking the capital's presidential secretariat hours before they were due to vacate the area. Hundreds of soldiers removed barricades set up by protesters while blocking the main gate of the seafront building, which demonstrators had partly overrun earlier this month. Activists had announced that they planned to hand over the building, a symbol of state authority, today after a cabinet was sworn in by Wickremesinghe. Soldiers surrounded the colonial-era building and removing temporary structures set up to provide logistics for thousands of anti-government demonstrators since early April. Troops were also seen attacking people, including journalists, with batons as they advanced towards small groups of protesters gathered at what had become known as the Gota Gogama village. The head of the influential Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Salia Peris, condemned the military action and warned that it would hurt the new government's international image. The military used loud hailers as they ordered a few hundred men and women camping overnight to pull back and confine themselves to a designated protest site near the Secretariat. Police cordoned off the main roads leading to the area to prevent more people from joining the protesters. A police operation Thursday targeting gang members in Rio de Janeiro's largest complex of favelas or low-income communities left at least 18 people dead in one of the deadliest raids the city has seen recently, and one already bringing more criticism of police violence. Rio authorities said 16 suspected criminals were killed in confrontations with police in Complexo do Alemão, along with a police officer and a woman. Brazil's news agency reported the army and the police stormed a slum in North Rio de Janeiro in the morning to capture people suspected of robbing vehicle loads, banks and stores in multiple neighborhoods. A colonel informed the national news agency that suspects set a barricade on fire in a street as residents had posted on videos of shootings on social media. The videos showed intense shootouts between criminals as well as a police helicopter flying low over the small brick houses. Rio's police have used helicopters to shoot at targets, even in densely populated residential areas, and video showed shots being fired from the favela at the aircraft. Gilberto Santiago Lopez, a member of the Human Rights Commission ANACRIM, said the police goal is not to arrest suspected criminals, but to kill them. Last year, 28 people died in violence in Rio's slums, mostly in clashes between drug traffickers and police. In an early statement, local police said Thursday's operation was aimed at locating and arresting criminal leaders, some from other states. President Joe Biden tested positive for COVID-19 on Thursday, with his doctor saying the 79-year-old leader was experiencing only mild fatigue and would isolate at the White House while carrying out his duties. Now, Biden, who posted a picture of himself working at his desk, tweeted that he was doing great and apologized for missing a scheduled event in Pennsylvania.
And here comes Kareem Jean-Pierre.
He also released a short video clip filmed on a White House balcony to address the concerns surrounding his well-being. Announcing Biden's diagnosis, the White House stressed that the president was fully vaccinated and twice boosted and said he was experiencing very mild symptoms. It said Biden was taking Pfizer's Paxlovid pill, an antiviral used to minimize the severity of COVID-19. Biden's doctor, Kevin O'Connor, wrote in an official note that the president was suffering from fatigue, runny nose and a dry cough starting on Wednesday evening. O'Connor added that the president had tested positive in a rapid antigen test on Thursday morning before the result was confirmed by a polymerase chain reaction test. Joe Biden is reported to be in good general health, but his advanced age will heighten concern over the impact of COVID. Now, China is facing a grim, complex situation to curb COVID-19 import amid the Omicron BA.5 subvariant-driven outbreaks around the world. According to Mi Feng, a spokesman for the National Health Commission, the subvariant BA.5 of Omicron is becoming the dominant strain of COVID-19 across the world, and it is also causing cluster infections in China. Mi said at present, the global COVID caseload is still at a high level, with the daily number of newly confirmed cases exceeding 1 million many times. As Omicron subvariant of BA.5 has become a major strain in the world, China is under increasing pressure of preventing the import of COVID-19 cases from overseas. Pointing out the seriousness and complexity of the epidemic prevention and control situation, Mi urged adherence to the dynamic zero-COVID policy and called for efforts to guard against both import of cases and domestic resurgences. In areas affected by new outbreaks, transmission must be contained in a decisive manner with early detection and swift and science-based adoption of response measures. Mi advised the tendency of either letting the guard down or imposing unnecessary restrictions should be avoided in epidemic prevention and control. The Chinese mainland has reported over 100 newly locally transmitted COVID-19 cases on a single day for a week. Coming up in sports, no definite replacement for under-23 coach yet. Stay tuned. The Football Association of Malaysia, FAM, have not ruled out the possibility of national under-19 head coach Hassan Sazali Waras taking over as head coach of the national under-23 side that was left vacant by Brad Maloney. However, FAM Secretary General Muhammad Saifuddin Abu Bakar said they would only make a decision after an assessment is carried out by the Technical Committee, National Team Committee and Harimau Malaya head coach Kim Pangon.
Dan tentu sekali jawatan coach bawah 23 ni dia akan melibatkan national head coach kita lah, Kim Panggon, sebab kita sedia maklum bahawa kita mahukan kita punya pasukan bawah 23 ni selari dengan pasukan nasional. Jadi saya kira jawatankuasa teknikal dan jawatankuasa pasukan kebangsaan memang dalam peringkat perbincangan sekarang, tetapi coach Kim Panggon pun belum balik kan. Jadi kita tunggu coach Kim Panggon balik. Saya diberitahu mungkin 1-2 hari ni dia akan sampai ke sini balik.
He added the selection of a new head coach will be implemented in a more organised manner in prepping the national team for the Southeast Asia Games in Cambodia and Asian Games next year. Previously, Australian Maloney, who handled the under-23 squad, terminated his contract with the FAM by mutual consent. Bayern Munich unveiled a new signing of Dutch defender Matthijs de Ligt yesterday. The German Bundesliga champion said de Ligt was signed from Juventus on a deal until 2027. Juve said the centre-back was signed for a fee of 67 million euros, rising up by a potential 10 million euros based on performance-related bonuses. De Ligt joined Juve in 2019 following his role in helping Ajax Amsterdam reach an improbable Champions League semi-final. In Turin, he has won a Serie A title, Coppa Italia and Supercoppa in his 3 seasons with the club, only once finishing a campaign without a trophy. The 22-year-old already has 38 caps for the Netherlands and leaves Juventus short of options in central defence, with veteran Italian defender Giorgio Chiellini also having departed in the close season. There have been big changes this close season at Bayern, with Polish striker Robert Lewandowski second in their all-time scoring list, moving to Barcelona in a deal worth 45 million euros. Senegalese forward Sadio Mane has been brought in as a replacement from Liverpool, with De Ligt the latest high-profile arrival in Bavaria. Kasper Ruud started his title defence with victory, overcoming next-gen ATP Czech Jiří Lehečka 6-3, 6-4 to reach the quarterfinals. Now, the top seed dropped just 1 set en route to the title at the ATP 250 event last season and once again looked at home on clay in Switzerland. The Norwegian saved all 5 breakpoints he faced to advance after 1 hour 39 minutes. Ruud, who suffered a disappointing opening round exit in Bastar last week, will next meet Spaniard Jaume Munar. The world number 5 is trying to win his 3rd tour-level trophy of the season this week, having triumphed on clay in Buenos Aires and Geneva. Earlier this year, the 23-year-old also reached his first ATP Masters 1000 final in Miami and maiden Grand Slam championship match at Roland Garros. Meanwhile, Lehečka was aiming to reach his 2nd tour-level quarter-final of the season in Gastar after reaching the semi-finals in Rotterdam. The 20-year-old is 6th in the Pepperstone ATP race to Milan. Meanwhile, Matteo Berrettini made a winning return to the ATP Tour Thursday when he dispatched Richard Gasquet 6-4, 6-4 to reach the quarterfinals. Playing in his first match since triumphing at the Queen's Club in June, the Italian showed little sign of rustiness against the Frenchman, improving to 2-love in their ATP head-to-head series. In front of a vocal crowd, the second seed fired 7 aces and won 79% of his first serve points to advance after 1 hour and 30 minutes, setting up a meeting with Pedro Martinez. The 5th seeded Spaniard edged Elias Ymer 7-5, 4-6, 6-2 in 2 hours 49 minutes. Berrettini, who missed Wimbledon due to COVID, has now won his past 10 matches. He lifted trophies on grass in Stuttgart and London in June after missing the spring clay swing in Europe due to a right hand injury. Meanwhile, Serena Williams was included on the entry list for the US Open yesterday, along with fellow former champion Novak Djokovic, who will not be able to compete due to his refusal to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Williams, who returned to competition last month after a year-long absence, was added to the entry list for Grand Slam in New York. The 23 times Grand Slam champion fell in the first round at Wimbledon and last appeared in the US Open in 2020 when the 6-time winner reached the semi-finals. Eligible players are automatically entered into the main draw, but that does little to help Djokovic, who retained his Wimbledon crown last month and is one back of Rafa Nadal's record of 22 Grand Slam titles. Djokovic will not be able to participate in the year's final Grand Slam due to current rules under which travellers seeking to enter the United States have to be fully vaccinated and provide proof before boarding flights. Through a statement, the United States Tennis Association said the US Open does not have a vaccination mandate in place for players, but it will respect the US government's position regarding travel into the country for unvaccinated non-US citizens. Almost 12,000 people have signed an online petition calling for the USTA to work with the country's government to allow Djokovic to compete in the US Open despite his refusal to take the COVID-19 vaccine. And And on to cycling. Overall leader Jonas Vingegaard tightened his grip on the Tour de France by winning stage 18 on the Hotukem mountain on Thursday after dropping defending champion Tadej Pogačar 4 kilometers from the finish. Vingegaard showed class when he waited for defending champion Tadej Pogačar after a fall before going on to beat his Slovenian rival by over a minute. Earlier, some 28 kilometers from home, Pogačar misjudged a corner and Vingegaard cut inside him, spooking the Slovenian, who then wobbled and slipped off into a gutter. The champion swiftly picked himself up, ignored the gash on his left hand as he hammered the pedal down in pursuit. The stage win leaves the Danes with an advantage that should see him ride up the Champs-Élysées to win the 2022 title on Sunday. Vingegaard and Pogačar have been shadowing each other the entire race, with the Slovenian winning 3 stages and taking the overall leader's yellow jersey by stage 7, before Vingegaard took it off him in the baking heatwave in the Alps. Since then, Pogačar has relentlessly attacked the Dane in a stubborn effort to close the gap. Vingegaard now leads Pogačar by 3 minutes and 26 seconds, while Ineos veteran Geraint Thomas is still third at 8 minutes exactly, 3 minutes ahead of 4th place David Gaudu. This was the 6th stage finish on this iconic Pyrenean climb, with Vingegaard's fellow Dane Bjarne Riis in 1996 and Italy's Vincenzo Nibali in 2014, both going on to win the Tour after winning at the summit. And with that, we've reached the end of Updates at Noon. Reminder of our top story today: anti-stalking bill is expected to be tabled in Dewan Rakyat this year. For more news, don't forget to tune in to News at 10 tonight on saluran Berita RTM. And before we go, let's watch a clip of a pop culture annual gathering, San Diego Comic Con, the first after 2 years of absence.